The 2024 election will decide much more than just the next president, which is also why we're tracking a number of races that are down the ballot that could affect the balance of power in Congress. Of the 100 Senate seats, 34 are up for grabs. The majority of them are currently held by Democrats or independents. Republicans only need to flip 2 in order to gain control of the upper chamber. All 435 House of Representatives seats are up for re-election, as they are every other year. Republicans currently hold the majority by 8 seats, but a new House Democratic campaign push in some battleground districts has emerged in the past couple of days. CBS News Congressional correspondent Scott MacFarlane joins us now to explain this. So you have new reporting about this campaign, particularly in districts that have larger populations of Puerto Rican voters, of course, in the wake of those comments made by the comedian at the Trump rally Sunday. What is the campaign, and can it benefit them?
CBS News has learned, Lindsay, a memo is circulating among Democratic campaign operatives listing the percentage of registered voters who have lineage in Puerto Rico. And in battleground districts, the numbers are high. In New York, several districts have large preponderances of Puerto Rican voters. Look at that top one, though. Pennsylvania's 7th district. 10% of the registered voters there near Allentown, Pennsylvania. That is one of the most contentious battleground U.S. House races in America. Democrats are trying to leverage the controversy of that very racist joke to mobilize and galvanize whatever voters they can. It's relevant in New York. It's relevant in Florida. There's also some in Connecticut they're watching. In the final days, you try everything you can as mechanization to get your voters out. This is one way.
So as I mentioned, there are 34 Senate seats that are up for grabs. Which ones are you watching most closely? Which potentially have the ability to change the balance of power?
Democrats are painted into a corner to begin with. They really could lose only 1 or 2 Senate seats and keep their majority, and they're already in trouble in one. You know, the Republicans are especially bullish about West Virginia, held by Democrat Joe Manchin, who's retiring. The Republican governor of West Virginia is overwhelmingly favored. That would give them 0 margin for error if they lose West Virginia. Then there are 3 other Senate races of note, 2 more of which are in states won by Donald Trump in 2020, Ohio and Montana. Heavy lifts for Democrats to protect those, and then they've got to get involved with Pennsylvania, the epicenter of the political universe this year. If they hold Ohio with Sherrod Brown, 3 terms. If they hold Montana with John Tester, also who served 3 terms, they've got to protect Pennsylvania 3-termer Bob Casey, which has become the nexus of the political universe. They have those competitive House races. They have a very competitive Senate race. And, oh, by the way, both presidential candidates have descended on Pennsylvania regularly. It is critical in more ways than one.
So even if the balance of power changes in the Senate, if Republicans are able to flip the power, it would still be a razor-thin majority like it is right now. How many seats would they need to pick up to see it as a success? And what major work could they actually get done with that sort?
Glad you asked. We've been pressing Republican operatives on just this point. What's the number at which there's a level of comfort that Republicans will truly control the agenda of the U.S. Senate? Technically, a majority controls the floor schedule. Technically, the majority controls the committees and all the little things that make the Senate operate. But to have a bulletproof group to pass tough legislation, things you want that are a priority but not everybody agrees with, they have to be mindful of Senator Susan Collins in Maine and Senator Lisa Murkowski from Alaska, both of whom have been contrarian voices on some Republican priorities. So that gets your number to 53. There are a lot of battlegrounds. 53 is certainly not out of the question, but that may be a more magic number if you assume a Republican majority.
Real quick, any House races that you're getting excited about?
I'm really interested in California. They've got a half-dozen close races in California. That's nearly 1/5 of all the battlegrounds nationwide. And here's the thing that gets me interested. It could be weeks until we find out the results from California. They are notoriously sluggish, deliberately so. We may not know who holds the majority in the U.S. House till closer to Thanksgiving.
Scott MacFarlane, always a pleasure to see you. Thank you.